Welcome, I'm Billy. I just finished up a series of FreeCAD tutorial videos. They're pretty long-winded. I know it was my first attempt at putting together something like that. I just wanted to share what knowledge I have of FreeCAD, and I'm still in the learning phase as well. I've got most of the basics down, and a little bit of advanced stuff. I can pretty much draw anything that I want to draw, design anything I want to design. So I figure with that series behind me, I want to change FreeCAD settings to my preferences. I usually like to work in the dark screen mode and change my backgrounds. So let me go ahead and jump into that and show you that. So what I'm going to do is start a new file, an empty file, and just to have something up on the screen, I'll put this up here. We'll go into the part workbench. I know I've been teaching everything out of the part design workbench, but the part workbench is good for just pulling up quick shapes. There you go. Just a touch of the icon there, a shape comes up. There you go. And let's touch that one there. Okay. So let me go to the preferences. Edit, preferences, and under general, I switch back, but the default unit system, is showing here at millimeters right now. Through the series that I just did for Woodworker's Perspective, I use the imperial decimal, but recently a lot of my design work, things that I'm working on, CNC machine, DIY CNC machine, and other designs, I tend to use millimeters. I've been doing FreeCAD since 2017 off and on, and recently concentrating more on it, trying to improve my skills. Instead of just doing special projects around the house here and there, I'm trying to make it more of a daily event to get on FreeCAD and try to work something out. I do that in millimeters. I did inches because a lot of the woodworking objects that I was drawing, I was copying out of a woodworking book that I bought a while back, and then everything was in inches, so I just converted over to inches. So I'm putting it back on millimeters, and then the 2 decimal system, I like to go up to 4, and the reason that I do that is because when I jump over to, let's say, the imperial, when I get into fractions of an inch, like half inch is 0.5, but then when you get into like 3/16, it's 0.1875. And if you have it set to 2, which I did during the tutorials, it would round to the 2 decimal, and it did fine, but I'd rather it not be rounding, just to eliminate the potential of some errors that could occur in the system without it not being exactly as what I typed. So I go to 4 decimals to eliminate rounding. And when I work in inches, I can't think of anything more than 4 decimals, so that's about where I leave it. And it doesn't hurt to have it set on 4 for millimeters. Millimeters are so small, you usually do, like half millimeters, like 5.5 millimeters, or I rarely see anything that's 5 1/4 or or 5 3/4 millimeters. It's either a whole millimeter or a half, since it's such a small increment of measurement or unit of measurement. So if you did millimeters all the time, if that's what you worked in exclusively, then setting it to 2 would be fine. Okay, and then I checked this box here to ignore project unit system and use the default. That, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I've experienced some issues in the past from the other workbenches and some of the internal, I'm going to call it computations, calculations, whatever, that there seem to be errors, or the information's not correct in the calcs because I'm using inches and then the system is calculating in millimeters. I did not get very good results. So when I check this one, I think what that's doing is trying to utilize this default unit system that I set here. So that could have been my problem in the past, that I never checked that block, but I do now. So consider that. The theme, I like to go with the dark. The classic is pretty cool. I'll apply that and show you. You see the kind of, I guess you could call that a purplish like background. That's what I had for years and years, and it's a gradient. It goes from dark down to light. But that's the classic. I'll go with the dark theme and hit apply. There you go. That right there, it may be a shock to some people, but it is easier on my eyes. The icons, I tend to leave them at large just because of doing the tutorials. It's easier for someone seeing it on the screen. You can go extra large if you like, hit that and then hit apply down here, and you can see what happened up top. It did make them larger. I actually prefer the mediums, but that makes it a little bit more, because what you can do with the medium is you can fit more icons in the bars up here. And in other workbenches, there are many more icons than what you see here in the part. Let me go over to, well, I can't switch workbenches right now, but that's what I would normally do. And so, but for the purposes of tutorials, because I know I want to come back and do tutorials, I'm going to set it back to large and hit apply there. Okay, give them a little bit more presence on the screen. Now the next one down, the tree view and the property view mode, it's combined right now, and if I'm not mistaken, it's the ones here in the upper left, the task and the model. I think you could break those two apart so that you don't have to keep going back and forth between those tabs to do your work. Some people like to take this model tab, or I'm sorry, the task tab, and pull it all the way over to the right side of their screen and dock it to the right side, and then it keeps their 3D view in the center, and they've got all their tasking on the right, and then their model information on the left. I tried that for a while and I liked it. I can't remember if this tree view combined is where you change that or break them apart. So let me try it real quick. I'll make it independent. Maybe it just undocks it. Okay, there you go. So we got the task over here on the left, and we got the tree view on the right. The view and the data tabs here at the bottom. I think I lost my model tab. Let me close this out. Let me hit this error report here. Oh, I gotta close this out first. We'll come back to it. You have to restart in order for it to take effect. So let's do that real quick. Go back to my part workbench where I was. Still got the task over here. Okay, and the queue. Okay, and the model information is on the right. So what I would normally do is, let's see if we can pull this off. Put the task over here. Here's a tree view. Pull the tree view over. Dock it over here. Okay, we got the task on the right and the model on the left. And then you can adjust, you could slide the view size window there, and you can pull this one over to suit your information, but we'll keep them kind of minimized right now. This is a setup that I've worked for a while, and I kind of enjoyed it. Let me show you what happens when you go to the part design and you create a body. You get your body over here, and then you get your tasking over here, like to create a sketch. Any operations that you do is over here. Your data and your view information is down here on the right. You've got this slider you can pull over if you need to read the information. You pull that up some more. That way you have, it's a little more efficient because you're not over here on the left side selecting the model tab and the task tabs in the upper left. You still got your view tab and data tab down here, but I kind of like this setup. It's easier for me to just kind of look left and right, and I have my model in the center. So I'm going to go with that for right now and go back to go to edit and preferences. Okay, so that was the tree view. We made it independent. And the rest of these, enabled tile background, I leave these default for right now. And let me go up here to the document. What do we got here? I believe a lot of this is the default, run auto recovery at startup, save, I've got it set to save every 15 minutes. You can set it to every 2 to 3 minutes if you want. But I felt like 15 minutes. That might be the default, but that works for me. Thumbnail sizes. A lot of this, I really don't have a need to change any of it. As I get more advanced, I may find that I want to come back here and change something, but we'll see. Here on the selection under General, these are default. I leave these checked with the 5 pick radius. I'm not 100% sure what that does, but I definitely seems like it has something to do with your mouse selection. That's something that as I learn more about, I may introduce later on in other tutorials. All right, the cache, you just set a limit. It stores data, so it doesn't have to pull it down from, it's a local data storage to help with the program run smoother, quicker. I just leave that like it is. Notification area, all that's enabled. I haven't changed anything here. I usually leave all this alone. Report view, I leave this pretty much like it is. Errors and warnings. When in some of the tutorials I made, I did get some error messages, and they were in red. So if you want to If you don't like that red color for an error message, you can change it. And then help is definitely, when I select help, I want it to go to the FreeCAD wiki online, or you can select other areas to get your information from. All right. And the PY, for those of you who are not familiar with PY, that is it's a Python script, I believe. I could be wrong, but I know that I've used PY before for Python scripts. That might be what they're saying. Anyhow, I just leave it like it is. I don't mess with any of that. So I really don't change stuff unless I get into the program and I see something I don't like and I want to change it. Then I go back to preferences and try to figure out how I want to change it. I cannot go through every single screen here and tell you what everything should be set at. So I tend to just, unless I have a very specific change that I want to make, then I will, I just leave it to the defaults. 3D view, coordinate system in the corner, that just, this coordinate system down here, the XYZ, you can make it larger. Right now I got it at 20%. And I'll bump it up some and hit apply. And you see how it gets larger, if that's what you want to do. 20% works for me. That might have been the default too. And apply. And you see the letter colors right there. Black is fine with me. Although, with the black background, it probably wouldn't hurt to have white letters, but I'm going to leave it like that for now. Rendering, something that I really don't use, other than a couple of, when I was learning FreeCAD, I did take some tutorials on rendering. It's not something I do a lot of, so I'm just going to leave all that as is. And the camera type, all that, yeah, I'll just leave it like it is. Light source, keep the defaults there. User interface, I don't know exactly where these colors, what they relate to. So if I changed them, I don't have a need to change any of these right now. Everything in the display when I'm in the FreeCAD dark theme, I'm satisfied with it. So again, I don't know what these color numbers are associated to in the display UI, but for now I'll just leave it like that. The icon size in the trees, these folks here in the upper left where it says cube, torus, I believe we can make those larger or smaller as well. 16 seems to be good for me. Let me see, overlay, hide tab bar, auto mouse pass through. I leave all that like it is. Navigation, I really don't have a reason to change any of this. The navigation cube over here on the right, you can set the size of it and the color. And in this dark theme, I don't know, probably wouldn't hurt to change it too. That's what it currently is set to, I believe. So I could go a little lighter. I can take that slider and go up a little bit more, lighten it. Hit OK, apply. It lightened it up some. But I would want to be able to read those letters. So let me go down here. Maybe try to give it more of a yellowish appearance, but not too much. Hit OK, apply. That wasn't much. Go up here, a little more yellow. Okay, apply. Yeah. It's not coming out as bright as I thought it should. There you go, there's something a little brighter. See if that helps. Yeah, I can go with that. That would help. And then this right here just makes it opacity. I'm going to set that to, maybe that's why the color's not coming out so bright, because the opacity is at 50%. I'm going to roll that back to in the 20s somewhere and hit apply. Oh, that darkened it. All right, go in the other direction. Go closer to 75. Apply. Yeah, that did. That brightened it up some. So the opacity low, if it was 100%, imagine it's just bright yellow. Yeah. So I would want to, my preference, I'd take it down to about 70. Because I don't want it too bright, distracting me. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, the rotational center indicator, that's when you are, I'm going to leave it like it is, the size of it. If you notice when you use your mouse and you rotate a view, there's a little center sphere that comes up that shows you where the center point is of that object that you're spinning around. So let me hit OK and hold down my key there. You see that little, that's where your mouse is. Like you could do it over here and do your rotation. Everything will rotate around where that sphere is. So usually when you're rotating views around, you want to get that sphere kind of inside the view right there, and it'll twist around that. That's kind of like your center point of where you're rotating things around. Preferences. The rest of this is navigation. I think in my Woodworker series number 1, I'm pretty sure I covered this, what each one of these do and what they look like. My preference is CAD, and that it just seems to be the most efficient way to use the mouse that I have. So that's something you could experiment. I don't have a trackball. Rotation mode, drag it, cursor. Yep. Trimetric. I don't know the camera orientation. I really don't mess with that, or the zoom. I can come back and play with that at a later date. Like I said earlier, I'm trying to bump up my skills, get more to the advanced level. I've learned what I need to learn to draw what I need to draw, but there are some things that that I should probably get more advanced with, especially if I want to continue doing these tutorials for others. Animation duration, I have not animated anything yet, so I haven't played with that. Colors, a simple color for the background. Now, background, I do have a preference here, and I'll input, you can select here any color and it'll be the background over here. I mean, heck, you could change your background to this orangish looking color, hit OK, apply it, and there's your background. Some people may like that. That's not my preference. What I like is something of a background similar to a blueprint, because that's kind of what I'm so used to when I first got started into naval architecture, drafting. I worked a lot with blueprints, so I've always just been fond of that color. it's very soothing to your eyes. So I have a particular number. Instead of me hunting and pecking for that color, I'm going to type it in here. I wrote that number down a while back, and it's a pound symbol. If I can find pound, there it is. Pound symbol, or I guess hashtag 0439 5F. Okay, and that's kind of my blueprint background that I like to use. For me, it's just more soothing on my eyes, and it kind of makes the 3D models and other views. It just makes it pop out a little bit more. So if you like that background setting, there's the number, that pound sign 04395F. So if you find a favorite setting of your own, I would recommend writing that number down somewhere, putting it in your phone, in your notes, your notepad, whatever. Save it so you can reference back to it. When you update your FreeCAD to newer revisions, you might lose it. It's supposed to save all your preferences, but in case you lose it, it's nice to have that number. So I guess enough about that. I'll hit OK there. The other ones here, I really don't mess with that much. I don't have a need to, so I'll leave it like it is. And under advanced, I'm pretty sure I don't change anything there. Font sizes in the tree view over here, I'm good with that. Overlay, I'm not 100% sure on what every single one of these are, but if any of you know some kind of a deep dive tutorial on preferences, send it my way so I can get educated. I'll attempt to go on the FreeCAD.org documentation and see what I can find, but I don't recall. I've been through that years ago where I went through the whole documentation and learned as much as I could, in addition to another book that I bought. So that's kind of how I got my information on a lot of things. But I don't recall them like going line by line through the preferences and telling you what everything is. So my approach, again, is to draw, find something that I don't like, and then say, okay, how can I change it? Then go back to the preferences and make changes, in lieu of me trying to go through the whole list, item by item here, as I've been doing, and trying to figure out what the settings should be. Okay, the next one here, workbenches, that just over here on the left, it just shows you what workbenches you have loaded on your computer. Python, I do very little of that, but I have been learning assemblies lately, and I have been cutting and pasting some Python information into FreeCAD where it will do drawings for you so you can build assemblies. I'll definitely be doing a tutorial on that. General, I really don't have anything I need to change here in the editor. You know, you could change the text colors and things like that in here, but I'm good with that right now. Add-on manager, this is where, let me see. I'm not going to go into that right now, but the add-on manager, just to give you a quick background on that, you can go online and I think you can, where's the setting at? Yeah, down here, the URLs and the paths, you can download certain third-party workbenches, and I've done that in the past, and you know, for doing FEA analysis and other things, just trying out different workbenches, and maybe someday I'll get into that. But currently, the way FreeCAD comes, it has the workbenches that I need. Import, export, It's just information about what you're importing, exporting, some data points you could check. I don't use those. Export, DAE, DWG, I mean, that's an AutoCAD file there. DXF is a standard 2D file, very similar to the DWG, SVGs, IGS steps. Used them all, but I really don't have any special settings for any of them at this moment. The measure, the appearance, I leave it as is. Material, I haven't gotten deep in material yet. I am eventually going to find some woodworking grains. I see other 3D CAD programs that have some very nice looking wood grains. I wish FreeCAD had some selections that are built in, but I know that I can go out and get third-party images to bring in for assigning a wood grain material to parts. So that's to come, but that's going to be at a later date. It's not my highest priority right now. And here's your materials here. You can select. Again, wood, generic. It's not very impressive, but it's something. All right, part design, general, the Boolean information, automatically refined. Yeah, automatically. I'd leave all those checked, default. Shape view, angular deflection, I don't change that. Shape appearance. Oh, the shape color, like right now it's kind of that gray. You know, I could, I don't know, as you're drawing, I could change the shape a little bit. Right now it's there. I can brighten it. But I kind of like what they have. The gray is not bad. No, it's not bad. Shininess, I guess that's that right there, 90%. So if you want to play with the view, I may come back and change these at a later date, but right now it looks good with that background that I have, so I'm just going to leave it. Yeah. And even if I brightened it, no, I don't want to mess it up, so I'm not going to use the slider here. I'm good with what's there. And if you select this random block, every time you draw something, it's just going to come up a different color if you like that type of variety. The line colors, like the lines they show here, I'm fine with the color black. I could get fancier at a later date, but right now I'm fine with that. Vertex color, vertex size. Okay, I'm good with all that. And then under Sketcher, General, I have no reason to change any of that at the moment. The grid size. Now this is where, let me see. Yeah, this grid right now is set up for inches. But if you remember earlier in this video, I set my unit of measure to millimeters. So when you set you got to be careful. You got to make sure that your grid units, let me see, grid spacing 1 inch. So what that's going to do on that 1 inch is going to convert it to millimeters, which I think is like 0.39 or 0.039. No, inch, 1 inch. That's 25.4 millimeters. But what I should probably do is set it to leave that inch off of there. Let me go back to general. Okay. Let me set it to millimeters and see if it defaults back to millimeters. Maybe I'm misspeaking here. There you go, standard. I'm gonna hit down here on Sketcher, grid, hit apply. Go back up to general. It's set to millimeters. Yeah, so this is pretty important because if in the grid, there you go. It reset to 25.4. Okay, so we're good there. But then grid spacing, I use 12 when I'm in inches so that I know you got 1 inch blocks. And the major grid line, hold on, every 12 inches. And then the minor grid lines is every 1 inch or 1 unit. So if you got that set to 12 and you're using millimeters, then every major line is 12 and it should be set to 10. So that's what you got to be careful of. So I'm going to go back, make sure I'm in millimeters. I'm good there. Go to my grid. So if I do use a grid in my Sketcher, this should be set to 10. The line width is going to be line pattern, and the width between lines is going to be 1 millimeter. And every 10 millimeters, you're going to have a major or a thicker grid line. So that's very evident to you that, and it's going to be that darker line right there. A line width to color gray. All right, apply that. Let me hit OK and go to Sketcher real quick. All right, I'm going to apply the grid up here. I think it's here. Okay, that's the spacing. But where do I turn the grid on? Come on, I can't remember. Is that it? Yeah. So when I do select it, the grid comes on. So here we go. The darker lines are the major grid lines, and then these are the blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that makes sense. If you change over to inches and you don't go back to your Sketcher and change your blocks to 12, it's going to mess you up because you're going to think that between every major line is a foot, and it's not. So just be careful with that. That's all I'm saying. And you can zoom way back, and it's constantly adjusting. It's adding 10. Like every time you get closer, you see 10. And I'll zoom in even more, and there's more. It just keeps subdividing as you go in and out. So, all right, so we'll turn that off in the Sketcher. Go back to preference. Try that again, preference. And we're down here to the grid, so I explained a little bit of that. Display. If you're unhappy with some of the font sizes in your Sketcher, because again, we're under the Sketcher workbench here, setting preferences, segments per geometry, that might be where the line segments, yep. So if you have a curve in your Sketcher and it's just the line segments have a bunch of straight lines in it and you're not happy with the look of the curve, you can come in here and increase that and you'll get a better defined curve. And you'll see that when you do the B-spline, because the B-spline has a lot of curvature to it, and that 50 may not be enough for you. And what's funny is, I really don't want to demonstrate it right now, maybe at a later time, but in these curves, maybe I can use this view I have here. Let me just hit apply. Okay. Remember I showed you earlier when I was in here and I zoomed in, and you see those lines. See, that's not a true curve. They're made up out of line segments. Well, when you have a line, let's say you got like this green line here that I think that's the the y-axis there. Let's say the y-axis is crossing that line segment, and you go to do, you want to grab the intersection of this line and the curve. When you bring your mouse in and you grab it, it's going to show the intersection being right there, not here. Because this line segment is a representation of the curve, but the true intersection is actually above those line segments. So it would be right there. That would be the true intersection. So that's something to think about. Maybe you'll run across, I know I've run across it many times. It just doesn't look right, but that's what it is, especially when you get really zoomed in on something. Zoomed out, you're okay. Yeah, you don't see it that much. All right, let me wrap this up here. We were at the end of preferences, appearance, creating a line. I'll leave it with white, especially with that blueprint background. Text, crosshairs, geometry. When something's fully constrained, it shows green. Construction lines are blue. I leave them like that, and they're dotted patterns, solid lines for that. You can customize all that, the lines, and your constraint symbols. Usually they're little red symbols. If you don't like that, you can come back and change it. I really don't mess with it that much. I kind of like the defaults, but I do get in particular moods sometimes where I just want to change it. All right. Oh, you can make your lines thicker too, or thinner. You can go thinner if for some reason you're not satisfied with it. I thought they had the dots. Here you go, the vertex. Maybe that's what it is. Those little round dots. Sometimes those can get pretty big at the end of a line segment. I think that's what you use to change the color there, but I thought there was a place where you can change the size. No. I'm sure I could find it if I dig deep enough. Okay, that's it. Thank you for your time. I appreciate that. I try not to make that too long-winded. It ended up being long-winded, but hopefully I can edit it down. Still working on shortening things up. All right, here we go. Okay, thank you. I'm going to continue to do FreeCAD tutorials from a woodworker's perspective. I'm new at this. I don't have a bazillion followers. I appreciate all the likes that I've received so far. Comments are very appreciated. I'm thick-skinned. You can say what you want. It doesn't bother me. You are the ones that I'm trying to reach out to and just share what I know. I enjoy doing this stuff because I just really enjoy designing things around the house or just things I come up with. I've got a project to put a little bit of money into a CNC machine that I want to build, and I'm using FreeCAD to design that. I may go over that, show you how I use the workbench that's called the draft workbench, how I use that. Instead of me using a graph pad, I have plenty of those that I sketch on. I'm trying to get myself more acclimated to using the draft workbench. It's a 2D workbench. It's not really anything like um, I guess I'll go ahead and say the name AutoCAD, which I'm used to using. It's the the draft workbench reminds me what AutoCAD used to be back in the mid 80s to late 80s when I was getting into that, and it just seems primitive to me. Like it's kind of old fashioned. It's not modernized to some of the other more efficient, quicker 2D systems out there. I've even downloaded LibreCAD, which is free, and that took me a while to get used to. And that's actually pretty similar to the FreeCAD draft workbench. So they may be designed off the same program. I'm not sure, but I use Libra to design an 8 foot long wall desk in my room, and maybe I'll cover that someday too. 3D model it. Um, okay, and like I mentioned earlier, I'm getting up to speed on assemblies. The assembly workbench. So far, I like it. It's not too difficult. There's really just a handful of ways that you can attach assemblies. So I'm going to get my skill level up a little better and then do some tutorials. The tutorial I want to do is I'm just going to take the FreeCAD.org tutorial they have written out, and that I watched some of the other tutorials online, and they're okay. And there's one or two folks on there that have been doing this a very long time. Maybe I get to their level someday. Who knows? But it just the FreeCAD.org assembly information tutorial, I guess you could call it. It resonated with me better, and I went through all of it. It made sense. So instead of me trying to make up my own assemblies, I'm just going to use what they have. It's free, and I'll show you how to cut and paste the Python script out of there and load it into FreeCAD, and it'll build all the objects for you, so that then all you have to do is just focus on using the assembly workbench to put those objects together. So I'll get into that. But I want to continue the woodworking perspective. I know that's kind of niching down, but I just feel like woodworking, in my opinion, is underrepresented, I guess I could say, in FreeCAD. There's some really good videos out there, some ones that I'm impressed with, but they were from 3 to 5 years ago. And I kind of want to modernize that a little bit and try to find some cool woodworking projects. Me personally, I really want to get back into my guitar building, and I'm eventually getting back there using FreeCAD, but I'm not ready to do any tutorials on that yet. I want to get through assemblies. I want to do typical hardware that many woodworkers probably use to build boxes, cabinets, things like that. I've been researching some of that. It's pretty interesting stuff, and it's more like sheet metal or mechanical drawing. And there, by the way, there is a workbench, a third-party workbench for sheet metal. That's pretty cool. I've used that a while back, trained on that, where you can just take a flat piece, you could draw something flat, and then you could put bends in it. That's pretty cool. But the hardware, it's still a woodworker's perspective. It's the hardware, hey, and it gives you a little mechanical design experience too. So, and then I'll probably get back into some more woodworking projects. But eventually, in the background, I got to keep my CNC machine going, the design for that. and my guitar building. I'll show a little bit of my guitar, what I have built, things like that. So, you know what? I've just gone on too long, as usual. I'm going to try to edit this down and just put essential information in here. I need to learn to zip my mouth. I just get going. And I guess I need to learn how to just say what needs to be said, and that's it. So have a great day. I appreciate your time tuning in. Hopefully you learned something. And always remember, steady as she goes.